Greetings. Welcome to In Conversation with Trevor, brought to you by the Nyaradza Group. I go beyond the headlines and beyond the sensational. Today, I'm in conversation with Tafadzwa Chinamo, the former chief executive of the Zimbabwe Securities and Exchange Commission. Enjoy this thought-provoking conversation. Mr. Tafadzwa Chinamo, welcome to In Conversation with Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor. It's such a privilege and honor to be here. Thank you.
So you are the former chief executive of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe. You've just stepped down. What is it like to be without a job?
I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a new space. It's something that one doesn't really plan for. You know, that if it's a new job, you're looking forward to the job. But stepping down, I think when it finally happens, it's a different space. And I'm sort of finding my way, but I like it all the same. It's good.
You're finding your way. Are you trying to get you to come onto the conversation? Was not easy. Sounds like you still have a diary. Are you busy at all?
I thought I would actually be resting.
Yeah.
This time. I said to myself, it was such a stressful job. There was not much time to rest. You know, there was always something going on, and you literally have to okay, your mind is on the job 7 days a week. So I thought that come the 1st of February this year, I'll wake up and it will all just vanish, and I'll just have all the time to myself. It's not been like that. At the moment, I'm torn between going back to formal employment or, going out on my own. And I think in that discovery or, navigating that path, this is where, again, I find myself so drawn to so many things, that there is just so many things that I could possibly do. And I hope that I do make the right choice sooner rather than later.
It can't be an easy space to be in. I think there's tension there. Do I go on my own, or do I go back to the corporate world? What's your thinking process like? Can you take us into that space?
Yeah. So I think all my working life I've been in the corporate world. I've worked in the financial services industry ever since I left university, and it's an area that I think I'm comfortable with, I'm happy with. But also one gets a sense that, well, personally anyway, that I've done my bit, especially the past 10 years with the Securities and Exchange Commission. It really was a slog, and I feel that, well, maybe I don't have the sort of energy that I had 10 years ago when I took on this job. And I don't think I'll be doing the next job justice. That I don't think I have the same sort of stamina and resolve to undertake a huge responsibility of the nature of the Securities and Exchange Commission. But anyway, you never know with these things.
Yeah.
It depends on the opportunity, obviously, and the challenges that that I'm presented with. I love challenges. I like taking on things that seem impossible. And that's really what gets me going. That's what drives me. Yeah.
So as you leave the Securities and Exchange Commission, and when you look back, are there things that you look back and say, oh, I wish I could rewind and redo this? Are there areas that you regret having done?
Yeah. I can't say regret, maybe it's a bit strong a word, but doing things differently, certainly. I think for me, first of all, is that when people look at the Securities and Exchange Commission, they look at someone whose position it is to solve all the problems of the capital markets. I think it's a reasonable expectation. That is what structurally, if you look at the hierarchy of the capital markets, the Securities and Exchange Commission is at the apex of that. So whatever happens underneath it, it's certainly the Commission is accountable for that. The regret that I have, or things that we should have done more vigorously and I guess pushed a bit more, was to have, or rather, to put the commission in a position that it was in charge of the entire space. What do I mean by that? When the act establishing the commission was promulgated, it covered everything else within that space except one group of players who, in my view, are the most important, who are the issuers of securities, so listed companies. So they don't fall directly under the purview of the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is a problem. Because when you look at the mandate of the Securities and Exchange Commission, the first thing that they talk about is investor protection. Now, you only protect an investor, or rather the only person who stands to abuse or to do wrong against an investor, invariably is an
listed
issuer.
entity.
Yes, it's because the relationship is simply that if you look at the capital markets, if you really just simply break it down, you've got investors with capital and companies that want that capital. Everybody else just brings these two together. So the risk that an investor faces is with the person that they've given that money.
Yeah.
But if those people are not accountable in terms of how they report to the investors, or even any of the things that they do, they don't report directly to the commission. I think that for us has always been a problem.
Was that deliberate, or what was the thinking behind excluding the listed entities from the purview of the Act?
Yeah. So I think when you go back and you really say how did it come to that, I think it's good to go back a little bit and see what the market was like before the commission was there. So you had a stock exchange, which was, and there was at the time the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange Act of '74, which essentially made the stock exchange the regulator of the capital markets. I think in a lot of minds that situation was working. There was no need to change that. There are one or two places in the world where that sort of happens. I think South Africa is one, which is actually an anomaly in the new world order of things. Right? So I think, yes, it was because of that also. You may recall, I think if you go back maybe 10, 12 years ago, when the commission itself was established, there was that sort of, resistance from the establishment that, what are these guys doing here? So I guess if you put that into context, and then maybe there was that thinking that, I think things are fine. Why doesn't the commission come and regulate all the other players except the issuers? So the issuers, they'll be regulated by the listing rules of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. But these are rules that are being overseen by a private company. And there is so much in terms of sanction that a private company can institute against misconduct of people. It's like you and your bank. Your bank can take you to jail for, overdrawing your account, or things like that. So at some point, you now need a force of law to ensure that players within that space are accountable to that piece of legislation, which didn't happen. And because of that, I'll say that all the shortcomings that we had as a commission was because of that.
And talk to me about the tension that clearly existed, what was loud, between the commission and the stock exchange. What is behind that?
I think it's just natural, Trevor. And Zimbabwe is not unique in that sort of situation. In most countries, if you look at the biggest market of all, the United States, the SEC there came into being, I think, in 1932. But the New York Stock Exchange and all the capital markets had been around long before that.
Right.
But it was a realization, again, because of that you needed a government body with legislative powers to stamp authority and order into that market. So again, when you then bring in a regulator into a space where the players believe that things are fine, it's never going to be easy. So I think it was only natural that that tension was there, and because of that also, that the commission had no direct authority over issuers. Whenever things were grey, they would hide behind the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, and the commission really couldn't do much. It could, I guess, shut down the exchange, but then what good would that do? So you then had, so if you look at, so there were two centers of power, really.
Yeah.
That you the stock exchange and the commission. And the commission was obviously new, whereas the exchange literally had the relationships with all the other players.
Were there specific issues what were the niggling issues? One or two issues that were problematic?
I think it's just fear that someone else is going to be in charge.
Yeah.
So look, it's like two bulls in a pen.
Yeah.
There's going to be tension, even if you accept that, the commission must be there.
Yeah.
But just that fear that, okay, so what happens to me?
Yeah.
What if they do this and what if they do that? So I think that is what really brought it about. Yeah.
One thing that I found, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the delay to embrace automation as far as the market is concerned, what was behind that, and what's the status right now? Are we, as you leave, are you in a happy place as far as automation is concerned? But in the first instance, why the resistance?
Yeah. Again, Trevor, I think old habits die hard, right? So by about, when I joined the commission in 2011, I think we were probably the last exchange, notable exchange, that was not automated. We still had our brokers sit around a table and we do a call over. Right. Now, for them it worked, And I guess also when you look back, a lot of the broking firms were also run by people who were quite senior, both in terms of age and just knowing everything. So again, for them to shift easily into this electronic age was always going to be a problem. So this is something that the commission literally had to force the market to do. And it had to come, unfortunately, in stages. First, we started with the Central Securities Depository, where all the paper files or other certificates were converted into electronic form if you wanted to trade on the market. And then a year or two after that, and then the exchange itself automated. So I think as far as that is concerned, we've achieved it.
Okay.
But if you look at modern capital markets today, I think what we have is just the basic model, right? There's so much more that we are not doing. So if I look at the interface between an investor and the markets, in most countries, it's all electronic. It's via tablets, via smartphones, and so forth. Brokers themselves have also invested heavily in IT infrastructure, which is not happening, I think, in this country. With the coming on board of C-Trade, I think that was a good platform where via your mobile phone and EcoCash, you could actually create an account and trade on the market. A few years later, Zimbabwe Stock Exchange came up with its own ZSE Direct. But these are the things that the intermediary players, mainly the brokers, should have done themselves. Their platforms should have enabled you as a client of a broker. Okay. So when we said that we automated, it simply meant that brokers were no longer going to a central place to trade. So the brokers were now logging into a central place at the exchange. But the interaction between the broker and their clients was still physical, is still physical. So that's why I'm saying that the automation has not gotten to that stage.
I hear you.
Automation also means that the trading hours should actually be longer. They've actually shrunk, right? So what you then have in most markets, when the markets open at 9, the charts actually go like this, and trading is happening all throughout. So, and unfortunately, actually, one thing that, going back to your earlier question about regrets or things, it's not really something that I can say that it's attributable to the commission. But before we automated, our market was actually very active in the sense that we had what you call turnaround trades. So you woke up in the morning, the market's open. Okay, the first call over happened. You bought a parcel of Barclays shares. An hour later, you could sell them same day, right? If the price has gone up. So nowadays they call that day trading, right? So there are people who simply just trade within the day, buy and sell the same stock as many times as possible. When we automated, because of the interaction between the CSD and the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange system, it's not possible to do those trades.
Okay.
So if you buy shares today and they go up 30%, say 20%, which is the maximum that they can go per day, you can't sell them until they settle, which is 3 days later.
I see.
So the earliest that you can do that is 3 days, which for me, I think, it flies against the whole spirit that we've automated the market. Automation actually means that activity from a retail point of view should actually be
instant, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. The moment that it's been established that I have the money or I have the securities to trade, I should trade those securities as often as I can.
Yeah.
Within a day, I should be able to buy and sell the same stock as often as I can, but nowadays I can't. And I think that's a big
You say that part of this was old habits take a long time to die. But there's this sense that the market, the players in the market were benefiting from the OPEC regulations prior to automation, that there were instances of fraud. Talk to me about the extent of that.
Yeah. So I think the world over, what drove automation is the fact that it's easy to account for transactions or to account for investors' money or their securities.
Yeah, right.
Right. Now, if you got paper, which is shuffling between offices, from an investor to a broker to another broker to a transfer secretary, a lot of things can happen there. So it was not inconceivable at the time that shares were misappropriated. Right? It's a piece of paper. If I have a good printing machine, I could literally reproduce a share certificate, right? So there were a lot of instances of that you think that you own some shares, you've got proof by holding that certificate. You go to your broker to trade, the broker does the trade, they go to a transfer secretary, and then they tell you that the certificate is invalid. So those things were also happening.
How much of that was happening? And do we have a quantum? Point number one.
Yeah.
Point number two, was anybody prosecuted for this conduct?
So numbers might be difficult for me to give you, but I'll certainly tell you that it was quite regular, right? And in a lot of cases, if the client, the cases you become aware of were the ones where the broker and the client failed to resolve the matter, right? And then they reported that broker to the exchange.
Okay.
Now, in most cases, a broker would never want a matter like that to be taken to the exchange. So they'll settle it at the in-house because the exchange took a very strong view on such things. There were also other things like front running of shares because this is a call-over system, right? You are relying entirely on your broker to execute your trade. So you give him an order, please buy me Old Mutual shares. They take that order to the market. When they get to the market, they might have 15 other, 20 other clients with the same sort of things. They come back and they now have to allocate whatever they would have gotten to their clients, to their 15 or so clients. They could have bought those shares at different prices. Now, which price do you get and which price do I get?
Is front running... shouldn't the market take a dim view of front running? Should this not be seen to be inappropriate behavior by a broker? Yeah,
so look, I think what happens in any market, you need regulation.
Yeah.
Right. There's money to be made here. This is why we have police. This is why we have law enforcement. You can't just let the market by itself decide that, this is bad, let's not do it. But you have to catch it first.
Yeah.
So as long as there are no means or ways
of catching it.
Yes, of catching it, it's going to happen. Yeah. it's bad behavior, obviously, but how do you prove it?
As Nyaradzo, we strive to continuously bring convenience to our clients. Nyaradzo Group is proud to introduce Sawi, a new virtual chatbot assistant on WhatsApp. With Sawi, you are now able to interact with us from the comfort of your home and can be assisted anytime via WhatsApp. With life assurance products, diaspora products, applying and assessing your policy, payment platforms, claims information, and any other queries concerning payments, policy information, or products and services. Simply WhatsApp Sawi on +263 712 992892 or register and start interacting and receiving notifications from Sawi on WhatsApp. Now, join in and experience a new level of convenience 24 hours a day with Sawi.
So you say, if you couldn't catch them, I mean, what prosecution do you come up with? And I was wondering, EFE Securities and Remo Stockbrokers, were they caught in the same thing, or is it a different situation? Where are we with that case?
Yeah. Well, it's finished anyway. So it's a totally different thing altogether.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is where, again, it shows you the power of good regulation. Because brokers are entirely accountable to the Commission. The Act empowers the Commission to act on brokers, to take action on brokers. In that case, it was a simple case that you had two brokers were engaged in activities that their license did not allow. They were lending each other money, right? And so the deal went bad. One broker, Remo, I think had pledged shares as security to a loan they got from EFE. And then, according to Remo, they paid back that money. I think they did. But EFE was not able to return that security, and the shares were sold into the market. So when the matter came to us, we found them both culpable of violating the terms of their license, and we cancelled their license. Remo appealed all the way to the Constitutional Court, but because the action that we taken was proper, our decision was upheld right through to the Constitutional Court. So I think, as far as we're concerned, that matter is...
yes.
Are
they back now?
Yes, and again, I think just to show again how fair we are, their licenses were cancelled, but after 5 years, they were we allowed them to be readmitted into the system. Obviously, there were terms and conditions set that in the terms of the brokers themselves, they had to work under another broker for 2 years. But Remo is back, but EFE is not back. But the brokers who were at EFE, it's actually Interfin, not EFE.
Okay, Interfin.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at EFE is in good standing. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's all right. So that stands corrected. Talk to me about what is the status of our capital markets right now as you walk away as the former CEO of Securities and Exchange Commission. How deep, how active is this market? Point number one. Secondly, what is required to ensure that our capital markets are pumping from all cylinders?
Trevor, I think our capital markets is far from an ideal position. A lot of the reason for that is not due to the Commission itself or the capital markets. I think it's just our economy.
Okay.
When hyperinflation happened, that, I think, damaged a lot of confidence with the formal financial institutions or the financial services industry.
Right.
So you had a lot of people who just moved away from that. So the engagement, I think, in terms of involvement, has really shrunk. So if you look prior to the hyperinflation, there was a lot of activities, there were a lot of listings, and I think those are always the barometers that you look at.
Right.
How many listings do you have? We've not had decent listings for, 5 years. Okay, they've been one or two at Vic Falls, but essentially that's mostly companies moving from
the main board to
there, but we've not had that. In terms of the engagement or the reach or the depth, in terms of number of active accounts, We're talking now of plus or minus 12,000 active accounts. Go beyond before hyperinflation in the hundreds of thousands.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that's a sort of disengagement that you have. And because of that,
Wow.
you know, it's always a question that what starts first? Do they invest? Okay, do you start with investors that you educate them and let them know about the markets, which we've done very well, I think, as a commission over the past 10 years or so. I think we've done that. But also there's the other side. So if the investor now is aware of the capital markets, they have the money, they want to invest, what do they invest in? There was always that cry that there's not much to invest in. So the issuers of securities or the listed companies are not coming forward. And I think our part of the investor education drive that we had was first to target the investors, but also to the issuers.
Right.
You'll be amazed how many companies don't know that there are various options to the raise capital. You know, that listing in some economies, like in the US, you know, I think the listing is the ultimate dream of any company. Here, I don't think it happens. There are so many huge companies in this country without even that they don't even have that desire or ambition to be a listed company. And again, it's things like I've spoken about, that the state of our economy, what we went through at hyperinflation. Most of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange itself trades in Zim dollar. And people always ask you that, you know, why would I want to raise capital in Zim dollar and so forth? VIC-4 has got its own conditions, which some companies can't meet. So until those things are resolved, you know, there is awareness, certainly. I think there is innovation. We've seen a lot of new products coming in. Exchange-traded funds, REITs should also be, very soon they'll be coming in. A number of index funds are also coming in. But still, we need to generate more to entice the investors. If you look at the buzz around cryptocurrencies now, you know, that's the sort of buzz that our capital markets or these securities should be resonating with a lot of investors, but it's not happening. You look at the number of people that also trade currencies online in this country, it's a lot of
It's
people.
huge.
Yeah. And those things are very risky things, you know. Yet the returns on our capital markets have been phenomenal. You know, they've been way ahead of, by whatever measure you take the US dollar value, right? You would have done better over the past 5 years, 6 years, if you'd invested on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. But people don't know that. And it's because, again, of that, you know, just that disengagement that once burnt, look, this time around, I'd rather just do my own things and not expose my money to the formal banking systems, because things, they are changing so much.
But you say people don't know that this avenue exists. Should the commission be doing more? Should the stock exchange itself be doing more to going down to SMEs, to mid-level companies, to alert them to this opportunity? Or people are put off, apart from ignorance, by the costs of operating as a listed company? What could that be?
No, the costs here are nothing to it.
Okay.
The benefits, you see, that's the other thing as well. If a company that is worth, I don't know, $100 million is complaining of listing fees of $20,000 a year, I mean, that is ridiculous. Then it just shows you the lack of appreciation of the value of a listing. You know, and why is that? It's because perhaps collectively the commission and all the other players, the exchange and all its participants have not gone out and sold that. You know, and I think that's the problem that we have. In terms of who should be doing it, the commission can only go so far. I think it can only tell you of what's available there, but someone has to then push you and say that here's the account form, start investing. The commission can't do that. It can't tell you to go to this company and do that, you see. So as much as the commission has done to sensitize people, I think the investor education, in particular in the past 2-3 years, has been quite visible. It's been out there. But someone has to take it from there now to execute that. You know. So in sales, you know, you really then need someone to be, you know, bringing that cash register. You know.
Tell me, so the stock exchange was shut down 2008 and 2020. Did this happen under your watch? And what
Yeah.
view do you take of it? Do you regret that?
Well, first of all, we didn't close it. This is what, again, I'm saying that perhaps maybe some of the shortcomings, okay, is that as the apex body within the capital markets, such things should be the decision of the commission. But in this case, it wasn't. I think it came straight from the central government. They had their own views of how the money that was being made on the markets was influencing the exchange rates. Yeah. In particular, I think there was reference to the old mutual implied rate. You know, so because of that, it was closed. And obviously, we did the best we could to get it reopened. It took us a month, and then
It took you a month in 2008 or 2020?
No, the one in
2020.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah. It was closed before, actually, in 2009. Same reasons. I think then it went for exactly the same reason that people were making money on the stock market. And then taking those profits, going into the streets and buying currency and pushing up the rates. You know, look, is it true? Is it not? But I think that's life. I mean, that's basic economics. You know, and yeah. But those are these.
You don't fix the problem by dealing with the symptoms.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think yes, it was an unfortunate episode. Obviously, very difficult to navigate. We're getting calls from all over the world because this market, believe it or
How
not.
do you deal with that? I mean, you are the chief executive of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the stock exchange has been closed, and you're receiving calls from all over the world. What do you do? Hide under your desk?
Well, it's happened, so that's a fact. And
Yeah.
obviously, I think what they want to know is when is it going to open. So that's what you focus on, that we're doing the best we can. The good thing about the stock market is that, value is not really lost by it not trading, but it's just the opportunity for someone to exercise their profits or minimize their loss within that month. And again, not knowing when it's going to open, I think that is what was really worrying them. But the fact that we kept in touch with them and told them that we're doing the best we can, and there was traction or acknowledgement that from the government that it must be reopened. So I think that also calmed down a few nerves.
I was reading. I mean, there's a number of exciting things that you are seeing in the market as you like to tease you and say, as you sit on the beach. EFTs, exchange. What are they called?
Exchange traded funds.
ETFs, exchange traded funds. You're having cryptos. I was just reading yesterday that the UK Treasury has taken the initiative to make London an attractive space for anybody wanting to see us deal in crypto.
Okay.
And yet, in our market, there seems to be a pushback that says crypto is a four-letter word. Don't talk about it here. What are you picking up in terms of new products that could excite the market, and particularly the government's view or central government's view in terms of digital currencies?
Well, it's something that we can't run away from. I think it's here already. I think a lot of our citizens are involved in that in some way or the other. I think it's always benefits any government that at least you want your people to be trading in whatever instruments are trading in an open, safe environment. And I think this is what London has done. I think the issue of crypto, the first conversation is always that, is it a currency or is it for transactions? In which case, it gets a lot of central banks interested that how is it going to interface with our fiat currency, with our Zim dollar, with our US dollar. And then is it also a security? This is where now commissions like SEC get involved, that what are people investing in, how are investors protected, and so forth. So I wouldn't say that our government is burying its head in the sand as far as this is concerned. It's just that I think it's a process that is moving slower than it should. But certainly I think there is realization and acknowledgement that it must be made mainstream. And I believe that sooner rather than later, that's going to happen.
Tafadzwa, you have received a number of awards, and you were nominated by the New York Stock Exchange for the Best Securities Regulator. Congratulations. You also voted Best Asset Manager 2 years running in 2006 and 2007. You were voted Manager of the Year for Public Institution and Financial Services by the Zimbabwe Institute of Management. There's a couple of things that you've done which to me deserve to be highlighted, and I'd want you to talk us as briefly as you can to these. You worked on you published Investment 101, a complete guide to how to invest on the stock market. What was the thinking behind that, and how is that going?
Like I was saying, the thrust with investor education is that the people that really need to be educated are the investors and the issuers. So the handbook, the thinking there was that investing in securities, as much as we might want to drive people, as many people as possible, to that sort of space, it's also a very risky space. Shares are very risky. I think in our upbringing as analysts, as fund managers, there was always a cutoff point that retired people shouldn't buy shares, because the volatility of shares, the risk that they are incurring there, they might not be able to recover.
Yeah.
So the guide, or that book, was to unpack it as it is.
Right.
From start to finish. So it covers the entire genesis of the development of capital markets around the world, here in Zimbabwe, what they are, what instruments are there, what players are there. I think it's a must for anyone who's interested in that. It's in physical form. The print one obviously was not that many, but it's also in PDF form. It's also in audio form.
Okay.
Yeah, so all the chapters, obviously with audio form, you then miss out on the diagrams and things like that. But it does make reference to that. But you can download it. We also did a drama series, Ayoba Mkoba, based in Gweru, of a young man, just trying to raise capital. And again, it just talks about, very simple everyday language, what capital markets about and how people can be involved. For the SMEs...
Did you find traction with those? What responses were you getting?
I think it was quite good. It was quite good. We did this it was aired on radio.
Okay.
And I think the response was good. It's also on YouTube as well, so you can hear all the episodes. I think there are 13 episodes. So I think it was quite good.
Okay.
So you're talking of a couple of thousand, downloads and so forth. And then the drama series, A Grain of Fortune, follows the life.
An SME operator,
based in Gazaland in Highfields, who's got a grinding mill. He needs more capital. And again, in a dramatized way, it just shows you what capital markets can do for you. So I think those are the things that we believe that it starts from there. But going back to our earlier question, the commissioner can only do that. It can't then come to AMH and say that now let's go and list. Someone in the market has to do that.
Who is that someone?
There are financial advisors, the exchanges themselves, brokers, asset managers. There's so many intermediaries or market participants.
Do you get the sense that because this is a powerful tool of husbanding, mobilizing resources for investment, for the development of the economy. And if we're not aware of this platform, we're not doing ourselves any favors, are we?
Yeah, so I think it's going to take time, but I believe that, it's just, we just need examples, right? Role models, right? If you look at Econet, I think it's a classic example of a company that is now listed, and people like Strive really should be our voices that, look, this thing works. Look at me and so forth. So the more people see these things happen, I mean, if you look at Facebook, run by a very young man, but his biggest ambition was to be listed on NASDAQ. Now, why is that? Maybe it's cultural, but a listing also means a lot of our SMEs don't want to let go. So again, in the Grain of Fortune drama series, that is actually brought out quite a lot. That is common with a lot of small businesses. that if I list, I've now got a board I don't control, I have to go to shareholders meetings, I have to now have audited accounts and so forth. A lot of companies or small companies, maybe that's not their DNA.
As Nyaradzo, we strive to continuously bring convenience to our clients. Nyaradzo Group is proud to introduce Sawi, a new virtual chatbot assistant on WhatsApp. With Sawi, you are now able to interact with us from the comfort of your home and can be assisted anytime via WhatsApp. With life assurance products, diaspora products, applying and assessing your policy, payment platforms, claims information, and any other queries concerning payments, policy information, or products and services. Simply WhatsApp Sawi on +263 712 992892 or register and start interacting and receiving notifications from Sawi on WhatsApp. Now, join in and experience a new level of convenience 24 hours a day with Sawi.
So, Tafadzwa, we're talking about how do you make investing on the stock market, break it down in morsels that can be understood by the men on the street for them to participate. And I ask you the question because I remember when I was a financial journalist at the Financial Gazette, I opened an account at BAD. And discount company in Bad, I had accounts there, and I could see, that I was accumulating a bit of wealth. How do you communicate to members of the public that are out there who are looking for legal ways of investing and growing their little wealth? What should they do? Where should they go?
Yeah, so Trevor, I think my disappointment is that the marketing, like I said, the Commission's role is to inform broadly that this is what's there. But someone now has to take your hand and say that this is where you fill the form, move your money from your account into this and so forth. So the infrastructure is there. Unit trusts, in my view, or now exchange-traded funds are very easy, very simple to the open, right? And they are just everywhere, right? The unfortunate thing is that, unlike in the past, where these unit trust prices would be published in the paper every day, and you would actually see them,
track them.
Exactly. That is not there anymore. So the asset management companies, I think, have to go more retail.
I see.
But the tools are there. The tools are there. And even if I know a lot of people earn Zim dollars, right? Investing on the stock exchange has always been ahead of exchange rate, has always been ahead of inflation over the past, 10 years or so. You would have done better on that platform. And how to get into that, these unit trusts are there, these ETFs are there, and it's that simple. But the unfortunate thing is that the marketing is just not there. I mean, if you were to go around and ask anyone out there that how many asset managers do you know?
So it would appear that the asset managers are not reaching out, and yet they should be the ones that are out there mopping as much of whatever people have left after Saturday and Friday.
So when you ask them, they say that it's not worth it. They would rather go for the bigger mandates. So a fund manager would rather chase a mandate for a $20 million pension fund, than to accumulate $5 million.
What's your view on that?
I think it's just a
Let me
lost
put you on the spot.
It's a lost opportunity. I don't agree with it at all, and I believe that it's just businesses that are just badly run. And I've told them this time and again that with these, and again it goes back to the lack of investment in IT. You see, in this modern day, it shouldn't cost me as an asset manager to reach out to not just people here in Zimbabwe, but the world.
In the diaspora.
Exactly. My gadgets, or rather my systems, should be such that you can just log in there and then open an account and move your money. My marketing to you, it doesn't mean that I take out ads in the paper. my website itself, you know, my Twitter, my Facebook, that's where I should be doing it, you know, but it's not happening. So the mindset again is that, you know, it's easier for me to go after that big pension fund. If I get a slice of that, I'm getting maybe $5 million a month in contributions, but from day one, I've got another.
Do you think competition that's alert could come in and wake up a few people here?
I've warned them time and again
Yeah.
that this is going to be their undoing because the world has moved from there. Right? Even those pension funds want something that is simple. You know, the world over, they're actually investing in these funds as well. You know, so it's a lost opportunity, and I certainly hope that some among these players will wake up and see this opportunity. But it just needs a little bit of investment in IT.
Technology, connect with the masses, and
Exactly.
you are...
Exactly.
Well, I don't know anything about this, so maybe I'm talking out of 10. Tafadzwa, for those who don't know, you've had an illustrious career, starting off as managing director of Kingdom Asset Management, 1997 to 2006, and then managing director of Zimnat Asset Management, 2006 to 2010. When you look at that corporate career of yours, what are the highlights? What takeaways did that season of your life give you?
Yeah. So I think when I started at Kingdom at the time, this is a time when I think our financial services industry was just really, it just taken off. It was an exciting time. It was very illustrious. Again, it came crashing down. Okay, hyperinflation did something about that, but we also had a lot of bank failures.
Yeah.
And I think the end of that episode, while it was good at that time, a lot of people were actually saying that, look, this is too good to be true. And you know, when you speak of indigenous institutions now, you know, those days come to mind. So I think those are the takeaways I think that they had. But it also gave me, you know, an opportunity to be managing money in a very volatile environment. I don't think any fund manager or analyst the world over would have had the sort of experience that we've had in this country, that how do you preserve the client's value when your local currency is now in the trillions, you know, the exchange rate is in the trillions, inflation is all over the place. What do you do? I would say that the investments management industry here did very well to safeguard investments of clients, those that didn't panic and, you know, move the investments away. I know there's a big debate now that for the insurance and pensions sector, right? Buildings are still here, stocks are still here, but pensioners don't have their money. Where did it go? But our job as fund managers, I think, like in my case, especially the days at Zimnat, this is where inflation was really high, the years just before hyperinflation. And I would say that in dollar terms, because we literally maintained our portfolios in US dollars, we maintained value in US dollars. And I think that was quite exciting. It's not a space that I would want us to go back again, but it seems we are always straddling that, you know, that it could be any moment now. You know.
What lessons did you learn? You know, you say, you know, you were managing clients' portfolios in a hyperinflationary environment. When you look back, how did you do it? And secondly, what lessons did you learn?
I think when things go like that, first of all, you don't want to believe that it can get any worse. So I think with hindsight now, you should act decisively as soon as you can.
Yeah.
So I think you move away from monetary assets as quickly as you can, right? So your property or any hedges to a stronger foreign currency, I think is good.
Don't keep the Zim dollar under the pillow or
monetary
mattress.
assets. In, you know, look, I think you will have a very sore neck because your pillow is going to be up there somewhere. So no, that you really shouldn't do. But certainly, I think it's just about realizing, okay, first of all, acknowledging the situation that you're in. A lot of fund managers realize it's late, you know, and by then, you know, by the time the currency was really losing value, they had still had large chunks of their funds in money market assets, which were worthless at the time. So if it was possible at the time to buy as much land as you could, or buy stocks that were at exporting, so your mining counters or those international companies and so forth, I think that it reduces to that. But getting to that point that the situation we are in is bad, it's not going to get better anytime soon, you need to be decisive. Those for me, I think, are the lessons that are different.
Is the other lesson not for us in Zimbabwe that look at where we are right now? The rate is about 300 in the black market, 250 in the official market. To have the sense that it could actually get worse.
Yeah, so I mean, this is what I'm saying, that when you are a custodian of someone's assets, your job is to preserve that value or to create them wealth, right? I think we've been down this road before, right? So anyone with experience will then say that, look, something sounds like something I've seen before here, and I now need to act.
Absolutely.
Which is why you are again seeing those things. So things like the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, in my view, start to make sense, yet I'm not seeing a lot of investment or activity into that sort of space and so forth. Emphasis on exporting companies or funding those exporting companies, creating those hedges. I think this is where it then happens. So again, the disadvantage to our corporate sector is that they miss out, you know, with this sort of investment or capitalization, because being a private company, you're not going to attract that sort of investment to give you the stamina or muscle to withstand these headwinds, and they are quite serious headwinds that are coming.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's go to Tafadzwa, the person who you did a BSc in mathematics and statistics at the University of Zimbabwe. You did a BSc honors in statistics. You did an MSc leadership and change management with Leeds Metropolitan University. Where were you born, Tafadzwa, and where did your formative years start?
Yeah. So I'm a Harare person through and through. I've lived all my life here. I was actually born in Mfakwas. There's a maternity out in Mfakwas. Well, I don't know what it's called now, but then it was called a confinement center. So I was born there. I lived in Mfakwas, I think, for up until I was 9. And then, so around 1978, we moved to Cranbourne. And then from there, I think in 83, we then moved to Greendale. That's where then...
Proper Harare boy, hey?
Yeah, through and through. So, and to make it worse, actually, during the war, I think the 70s war, I think was quite intense. So my grandmother actually came to live with us because the fighting in Gutu was actually quite intense. So our home actually became like the home for all our relatives. Right. So so that's where I grew up. In my family, I have an older brother. Like most families, he left for the diaspora many years ago. He's now in Australia. Strange as it is, and I've got 2 younger brothers. They are here. We had a sister, but she died when she was 10. So she had a very abnormal birth defect. So it was actually a miracle that she survived up to 10. So this has been my life. School, as we're moving from these places, I attended primary schools there and so forth. But high school, I went to St. Ignatius. And then to UZ. And
talk to me about your upbringing, the home environment, and where the biggest influence came into forming the Tafadzwa that I'm talking to now.
So I think my father was a very unique man. I think he molded me and my brothers and a lot of my extended family. I learned firsthand, actually, that how generous he was with the little that he had. Okay, they had a good job because in 81 he became managing director of Pearl Assurance Company. So I think the first.
So you follow after his footsteps, basically.
Yeah, But still, I think just the generosity of embracing family and friends and just being there for the people. He's a very devoted Catholic man, and all of us, again, grew up in that faith. And I think I know a lot of people say that I used to be Catholic and so forth. And look, I don't blame them, because being Catholic is hard. You may want to even disagree, but the Catholic faith is about the Gospels, and those are the most difficult things to follow. To love your neighbor, to just be that person, and so forth. And I see a lot of Christians don't really extend, what they have to their fellow man. And you say to yourself, this is a Christian country, but you look at the poverty here, and just the lack of concern for the next person. And I think it's that Christian belief that my father had that he lived by. And I think that is what really shaped me. He was also someone who was very forthright. He stood his ground. He didn't compromise his principles. When something was wrong, he said it. And a lot of people say I'm also maybe a bit blunt in my approach to things, situations.
We can't blame you. We blame your father.
Yeah, but he died in 2009. So
may his soul rest in peace.
Yeah, but my mother is still there. I live quite close to it. I also live in Greendale, so it's just walking distance to.
You're active in the church, hey?
Yes, not as much as I should be. But so since '83, I've been attending Rhodesville Catholic Church in Greendale. And I started a quiz there to raise money for our church. It's actually become an annual event now. My family and I, my wife and 2 kids, ran that for 10 years, literally. When I handed it over, that year we had, just from the Harare Archdiocese, which is quite a huge archdiocese, all the way to Gokwe, and as far north as the border in Mozambique.
Wow.
Yeah. We had 41 parishes that take part. So I was quiz master and all this and whatever. So, yeah. In my late life, I have become a big dog fan. And I absolutely love dogs. And this is I don't know whether this is a midlife crisis or what, but I love dogs, and I should be acquiring more dogs. I know you have a dog that you love. Yes, I do. Yeah. So a lot of people comment on
your status.
Yeah, my status. So my wife doesn't like the dog in the house, but anyway, that picture was actually taken in my daughter's room. So I love Jack Russells in particular. This is the 3rd one I've had. I think it's just the character of that little dog. When she was about maybe 6 months, so I love driving her in the car. And literally, as soon as I get home, she chases the car, and as soon as I open, she jumps into the car. So, and when I come out the house, she's by the door of the car. But somehow she knows if I'm wearing a suit that there's no right to do. But if I'm not wearing a suit, so this one time, she was sitting on my lap and the window was down, and we're driving in Greendale, and there was this German Shepherd walking. She literally jumped out the car to attack this thing, and I'm like, this, where does it get it? But it's just that, that spirit, that determination, that fearlessness, and just the energy that they have, and there's no down moment at all. So I've loved these dogs. I've always loved dogs. And my Saturday mornings actually is walking, if I'm, most Saturdays I go to Adamkwesi Woodlands, which to me is just a wonder. It's a blessing for this city that we have such a place in the center of the city. It's a pity more people don't know about that. But, and that's one thing I praise the council for maintaining those things. And I just hope no one starts building something in that beautiful ecosystem that we have. And so I think it's very fulfilling. Look, I'm now talking like a dog owner. I could go on and
a dog lover. That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. I know you are not a great lover of books, but still I'm going to put you
Yeah.
on the spot and go to the book section.
Yeah.
What do you read? I mean, it doesn't have to be books.
Yeah.
Share with us what
Yeah.
you read and what gives you joy,
Yeah.
if at all. I suppose it's difficult to read it as a statistician, isn't it? Talk to me about what you read, if at all.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm not a really person of fiction.
Okay.
So I like facts.
Okay.
Right. So I would read, and I like deep analysis of things.
Okay.
So I subscribe to the New York Times, to the Economist. I'm now on my 15th year, I think, as a weekly subscriber. So my Friday is just reading that thing cover to cover. The iPad version actually comes with an audio, so you can listen to that. But just the way they look at stories, right? So the story might have happened, but it's the way that they then go deep into it for you to understand what happens. So the fact bit about me is that those are the things that I then follow, right? The things that I do read, so if there's an interesting topic that's happening anywhere, right? The internet for me it's a huge resource. I think, thank God for Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a shame that there's not many of our own people there, And one project that I would really like to start is to start populating that.
That's interesting.
You look up Thomas Mapfumo, you'll be lucky to get more than, 500 words on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But look up any singer in the US. It just goes on and on and on. And I think that's
interesting.
That's what drives me.
Yeah.
Just to know, what things are happening. I love history. Yeah. So I subscribe to a lot of these things that those today in history things.
Yeah.
So go as far back as it can. And whenever I go, I pick up something that I find interesting and I've never heard about it. Maybe it was a battle that happened somewhere, or an invasion or colonization of a certain African country on a certain date. I look that up as much as I can. That's where my reading then comes in.
Wow.
If it means that I go and buy a book about that, that's what I buy.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this, how to change your life and so forth, Trevor, I'm one of those people that I believe that I'm just as good as the person writing that book.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I might sound cocky, but
well,
I'm really more
the people watching are going to respond to that. Tafadzwa, I like you say, I get the sense, and indeed you say as much, that you are in this very interesting space. Yeah. Something interesting is going to happen. Yeah. So we're going to be watching the space, and I have no doubt that you'll be doing something big for the country, and we wish you nothing but the very best.
No, thanks, Trevor, thanks.
Fantastic. Allow me to turn now to our viewers, Tafadzwa, who are all over the world, who've made this show the success that it has become. We are sitting on 4.2 million views, and very excited about that number. Remember, we are a weekly show. We come out every Monday at 7 a.m. Central African Time on YouTube. To ensure that you don't miss out on any of these quality conversations, such as the conversation I've had with Tafadzwa right now, please click onto this red button and subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll get an alert when we have anytime that we have one of these quality conversations. We have gone a step further. We've created podcasts for you. If you scroll down below this video, you'll find links to your favorite podcast platforms to click in there for your listening pleasure. Until next time, cheers to you all.